one of the most important decisions we all have to make at some point in our life is, when's the right time to retire? And as a financial advisor for over 20 years, I want to share with you my views, having helped guide hundreds of people into retirement, and why I think many people benefit from retiring at least a little bit sooner than what they're currently planning. And the first reason is, unfortunately, many of us, maybe most of us, are not going to stay as healthy as we think for as long as we think we're going to. The World Health Organization reports, unfortunately, that the average American loses our health. We get a major health issue. You know, we get diagnosed with cancer or cardiovascular disease. We have a stroke or a heart attack. Whatever it is, the average American, our healthy lifespan is just 66.1 years. That's just 13 months after when the average American is thinking that, you know, this is probably when I want to retire. So we don't have a lot of time. As I record this, I'm in Costa Rica. I just retired about 6-7 months ago, and I'm 60 years old. And unfortunately, my family, the men on my side of the family, have a history of cardiovascular disease. I hope I stay healthy till I'm 80, but the likelihood is I won't. So it's going to be, unfortunately for me, it's probably going to be harder to do adventures like this in the future. So taking advantage of the time that we have. Related to that is, for many of us, our jobs are more stressful than what we think they are. And often, and I can tell you this from personal opinion, oftentimes when we're working, we just don't feel all of the stress that's been on our shoulders. And we don't feel that stress because we've been doing it for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. And it's that frog in the boiling water syndrome, right? If you pop a frog into boiling water, that frog's going to feel it and jump right out. But if you slowly turn up the heat, which is what happens to us in our 20s, our late 20s, our early 30s, maybe when we get married, if we get married, if we have kids, then we have kids, a mortgage, and saving for college. So it's just these increased responsibilities that we get over time. And at first, it's like, I remember when I signed my first mortgage, that kind of takes your breath away and says, that's a huge responsibility. I remember when I brought my oldest daughter home from the hospital. That's a huge responsibility. And then you're saving for their college, and you're paying off the mortgage, and maybe you're navigating a layoff at your company, and hopefully you avoid it. But we just learn through our experiences to handle these pressures. But once you retire and those pressures are off of you, then all of a sudden you realize, wow, you know, I didn't realize I had so much pressure. And for me, my number one realization, having been retired 6 months, is the pressure, not having that pressure on me, and having flexibility with my time in a way that I hadn't had it before. So, you know, instead of going to the gym at lunchtime or waking up at 5 a.m. to get my workout in before work, it's nice to be able to go to the gym when I feel like going to the gym and doing what I want and staying as long as I want. So the first one is our health. The second one is the amount of stress that we have. Those two are related. And then the third one is, you know, how much is enough? Now, you want to be sure that you have enough money to retire, because, you know, that's our financial security. Once we walk away from our job, it's hard to get another job, likely, you know, at our age, at that pay level. So it's the old carpenter's adage. You want to be sure, you want to measure twice, 3, 4 times to be sure that you have enough money to retire. But once you get to that point, then it's you know, what are you working for? And there's a lot of things that we work for, right? We get purpose from our job, we get joy, we like the people that we're working with. But once we've got the financial base underneath us, then the question is, how much more do we need? And that's a different answer for everybody. So thinking about what the right amount of money is, getting to that point, I think it's okay to have a buffer above that. But, you know, a lot of folks continue to work past that healthy buffer, trying to have added security, trying to have added control. And while it's nice to have more money, it's nice to have a bigger buffer, ask yourself what you're giving up for that incremental additional money. I'll give you, for instance, financial advisors do something we call a Monte Carlo simulation on a client's portfolio and their retirement plan, and say, how likely is it that this person will never run out of money during a 25, 30, 35-year period? And we can tell folks, based on historical data, you have a 10% likelihood of, unfortunately, running out of money, but you have a 90% likelihood of never running out of money. And that's a really good likelihood. And many people are comfortable with a 90% likelihood, a 95%, a 97% likelihood. But where you have to be careful is each of those increments I just went from 90% to 95%. It may take you an extra 18 or 24 months or longer to go from that 90 to 95% likelihood of success. And is that worth, and this is not financial advice, I don't know your situation, but each person has to answer it. Is that extra, what I call sleep at night factor, is that worth it to climb up that ladder and to get that additional security? For a lot of folks, they'd say, you know what? I'd rather have a guarantee of an extra 2 years of my healthiest active time in retirement and retire at 90% likelihood or 85%, whatever it is, than to continue to work to get a 5% more higher likelihood of success. And the reality is, the SEC tells financial advisors, tell your clients that past performance is not indicative of future performance. So even though, this is the best tool, or one of the best tools that financial advisors have, but it's not perfect. We don't know what inflation is going to be next year, let alone this year. We don't know what the stock market's going to do. Heck, we don't even know what tax rates are going to be as I record this at the end of this year or at the beginning of next year yet. So there's all these uncertainties. So to trade what could be your healthiest and most active time in order to get a bigger buffer above and beyond what ahead of time you said, it'd be nice to have 20% more than I think I need to have, or 40%, whatever the number is. But the challenge is those milestones keep moving. For people that say, if I had $1 million, I'd be happy to retire. Again, as a financial advisor for over 20 years, many of those people, when they get $1 million, say, hey, I think I'd like to have $1.5 million. So they keep going, and when they get to $1.5 million, the danger is they're going to say, I'd really like to have $2 million before I retire. So if you want to optimize on what's in your bank account, then you work until the day you die. You never have to touch your retirement accounts. But none of us want to do that. And so it's important to think through what's the right time to retire. And it's also important to think through, while I'm on the journey until I get to retire, it's not about getting to the destination. That's part of it, but it's much more about enjoying the entire journey, enjoying the journey in your 40s, your 50s, your 60s. And that's why I made this video up here. 8 things to stop doing in your 50s and 60s in order to enjoy your journey more until it's your time to retire. Thanks for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.